Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Open Line Friday. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Very glad to have you with me today. I got to begin with difficult stuff. First of all, Jim Jordan has lost his third ballot. The number keeps going up. It was 20, then it was 22. Now it's 25. Three more people who voted for him again said that they're going to flip. Dan Crenshaw, who voted for Jordan 3 times, says he has recommended against a flurry of votes and says Jordan needs to reassess and take a breather. We'll see. I want to start with this. This was played on Jake Tapper's program on CNN yesterday. I also got a copy of it from Congressman Don Bacon. This is the voicemail left on his wife's phone.
Why is your husband such a pig? Why would he get on TV and make an himself? Because he's a deep state, because he doesn't represent the people. So what we're going to do is we're going to come follow you all over the place. We're going to be up your nonstop. We are now Antifa. We're going to do what the left does, because your of a husband gets on TV and says, oh, the bad guys, they did, so I'm going to vote for Kevin McCarthy, a piece of who everybody knows, and for his piece of talk about Americans who are...
It goes on from there. It gets worse. Let me read to you an email. This was sent to a staff member of a member of Congress who I know. He sent me a screenshot of it. This was written to his ex-wife. I'm writing to inform you that you are a filthy, vile C-word. You deserve to be mutilated, raped, tortured, killed, urinated on, defecated on, dismembered, then fed to pigs. I also hope to see your children, if you have any, kidnapped, anally and orally raped, and then promptly cut into tiny pieces slowly and with precision. I hope you and your rhino traitor husband are forced to watch as your children scream, cry, and beg hopelessly for mercy. And it goes on from there. There are a lot of conservatives who are being confronted with these vile voicemails to spouses of members of Congress and emails like this. And their first reaction is much like on January 6th. Well, actually, this is the left. It's not the right doing it. It's the left. There's no way anyone on the right would do something like this. This is the left. And they're trying to give us a bad name. They're trying to give us a bad look. In the same way, last Saturday and Sunday, a lot of people who are pro-Hamas said there's no way Hamas would do the things that Hamas did. Conservatives, you sometimes have to get out of shallow, simple, childlike thinking and realize there are monsters on our side too. And we need to purge those people from our side. This one's personal to me. When I didn't support Trump in 2016, we had people show up at our house to threaten us. We had 3 guys show up at our house to threaten us. My children were assaulted. My children were chased through a store by a man who I know is a conservative, who shows up at conservative events, who is a conservative, who marches for the conservative movement, who does all sorts of stuff for conservatives and for the pro-life cause. And he chased my kids through the store telling them that their father was destroying the country. They needed to do something. At my children's Christian school, kids started explaining to my daughter how if she committed suicide, I might change my mind on Trump and save the country. Stop telling me these are people on the left doing these sorts of things. I've experienced this from people on the right. You live a very sheltered life if you think no one on the right would do this, and this is the problem. They make it harder for a guy like Jim Jordan to become speaker. 3 more members flipped against Jim Jordan today, a couple of them because of the bullying. These people have made it difficult for Jim Jordan to become speaker. They've poisoned the well. Scott Perry, who's the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, says that the bullying complaints are a red herring. No, the hell they aren't. And I say that from personal experience, Scott Perry. I love you. I agree with you on so much. And not only are you wrong on this, but you don't understand the harm you are doing in saying that. I don't know that Jim Jordan can become Speaker of the House at this point. But if I were Jim Jordan, I would go to the well of the House and I would condemn all of this. I would say that the rot in the conservative movement needs to be exorcised. I would apologize to Don Bacon's wife on behalf of the conservative movement. And I would vocally tell conservative groups that are out there protesting and bullying and pressuring, you need to stand down. It's not helpful. And he might be able to pull some votes back in. Instead of having the vote against him go up, it might go back down if he did that. If Jim Jordan is willing to be clear and moral and precise and say this is inexcusable, and conservative activist groups that are today leading protests around the country in front of different congressmen's offices to demand them that they need to stand down, that this is not a fight to win through those tactics. Like this person who called Don Bacon. I hear this from conservatives all the time, that we need to be like Antifa. We're in a war. And so we need to behave just like them because their tactics are successful. So we need to do it. That's the rhetoric of someone from within the conservative movement who's broken, who thinks the world is coming to an end and is doing what he can to salvage it from the left. I encounter these people on this radio program. I encounter these people on my doorstep. Jim Jordan should be Speaker of the House because he is a conservative's conservative. Jim Jordan should be Speaker of the House because I think he can bridge a gap and guide the House towards clear policy from the right. But Jim Jordan will never be Speaker of the House because of stuff like this. The bullying cannot be rewarded. We look at the left and we see the abhorrence of their behavior, the Black Lives Matter shakedowns, the Antifa shakedowns. And there are people within the conservative movement, the post-Christian right, some people call it, who say, well, we're just going to behave just like them. We're going to be violent like them. We're going to be nasty like them. But there are a lot of really good conservatives who they see this stuff. They're like, that can't be our side. That can't be our side. There's no way conservatives would behave like that. I used to think that too, until kids of Christians who went to my kids' Christian school decided to tell my daughter how to commit suicide. I used to think that too until kids told my son they couldn't be friends with him because their parents wanted me dead for not supporting Trump in 2016 because I was destroying America. You live a blessed life when you can hear these things and conclude, well, that can't be conservatives. It must be liberals pretending to be conservatives. You lead a blessed life because you haven't seen people who you thought were your friends and allies turn so nastily against you. You haven't had to experience what my family's had to experience. Jim Jordan. You need to go to a camera and look into it with a microphone and say you thoroughly condemn anyone calling your colleagues or their staff members and bullying them and threatening them. And you need to look into that camera and speak clearly into that microphone that this behavior is antithetical to the values of the conservative movement. It is unhelpful to you personally, and those behaviors will work against conservatives. And you need to tell the conservative movement to do better. if you want to salvage your chance to be speaker. I honestly don't know that Jim Jordan can salvage his speakership. I would like to see him be speaker, but I think Matt Gaetz poisoned the well the way he ousted McCarthy in his Leroy Jenkins moment. And stuff like this, the bullying campaigns from the right, they're not helpful. I know the conservative movement, when they ask people to go out and encourage members to support Jim Jordan, they're not going out and asking them to bully or badger or harass, but that's the way it's interpreted by some on the right. Deeply unstable souls. That's the way some on the right have decided, the post-Christian right. They may consider themselves Christian, but they're in their bass boat on Sunday, or they're at the political protest or watching football. They're not actually in church, and they've decided, you know what, we're going to behave just like the left because look how successful the left is. I actually don't think the left has been that successful in these tactics. I find those tactics off-putting, and I think the average independent moderate voter who we need on our side also does. But there is this perception among some of the right that we've got to fight just like the left. And the way they interpret fighting like the left is to be a nasty brain biblical donkey who calls members of Congress as wives and tells them they're going to harass them and follow them around town. Again, this is part of the voicemail to Congressman Don Bacon's wife.
Your husband's an talk to this stupid. We're at war. Israelis being killed, and your dumb husband is acting like a 2-year-old. No wonder. He's a warmongering piece of.
That was left with a voicemail to a member of Congress's wife from someone who claims to be of the right and that we're going to behave just like Antifa because we're in a war, we're in a fight for this country, and your husband doesn't understand it because he's a blankety blank so-and-so, and we're fighting for the soul of this country, and your husband needs to fight for this country. Blah, blah, blah. That's the rhetoric of someone on the right who's been thrown into existential frenzy. I recognize that tone and that pattern and cadence, not the person who did it, but the tone, the pattern and cadence of someone on the right who's in despair about this country, who feels hopeless about this country and thinks that we need Jim Jordan and we need Donald Trump and we need fighters on the right. And if you're not with them, you're against them and you're actually on the side of the left. That's not the rhetoric of someone on the left. That's the impassioned plea of someone who thinks the country's near its end, and you may be that person. But it's deeply unhelpful. And again, to Congressman Scott Perry, these are not red herrings. These are not distractions. It's the personal relationships in Congress that tend to get things done, like a vote on Speaker of the House. And when you're saying it's a red herring, you're telling members of Congress you don't care about them or their staff getting harassed. And I just don't want to be a part of a conservative movement that has decided to behave like the left. I'm not of the left. I don't want to be like the left. I don't want to engage in the left's tactics. I'm a believing Christian. I take my faith seriously. God says, love my neighbor. And the person who left that voicemail, the person who sent that email I read you, that's not someone who's loving their neighbor. That's someone who's turned this country into an idol and is worshiping an idol. And it's poisoned their heart. And there are parts of the conservative movement whose hearts are poisoned. And if it makes you sleep better at night to say, well, this is actually someone on the left pretending, it's someone on the left posing, it's not really someone on the right because no one on the right would do it. If it makes you sleep better at night, you tell yourself that lie. But it's the same sort of lie we're seeing from people who are pro-Hamas, who are denying that Hamas would commit the atrocities Hamas committed because they can't allow themselves to believe that someone they believe is on their side would be that much of a monster. There are monsters on all sides. And the key to a healthy, vibrant movement is you purge the monsters from your side. And instead, we're seeing both sides deny they have a problem. There are lots of problems out there. And I think unless Jim Jordan can speak clearly about this problem and take ownership of it and apologize for it and say, it's not what I wanted and I don't encourage it and I condemn it, he will not be Speaker of the House. And even if he does it at this point, I still don't know that he can get the votes. Hello there, welcome. There is breaking news happening right now. My buddy Greg, who I know is listening right now because he just texted me. I need you to sit down and take a deep breath. The Dow has fallen more than 100 points. The 10-year Treasury yield has crossed 5% for the first time since 2007. It had been down as much as 200 points. It's recovered a little bit, now down 118. S&P 500 down, NASDAQ down. The 10-year Treasury crossing 5% for the first time since 2007 is a huge red flag for the economy. Why? Essentially, in order to induce people to buy treasuries, bonds from the government is having to pay higher interest to convince people it's worth the investment. Why? Because Jim Jordan has lost the third vote for Speaker of the House, will not bow out. The House Republicans can't get anything done, and the government is going to shut down in about 35 days. The deficit is starting to grow because tax receipts declined, and we're rapidly approaching the point where the debt service payments for the federal government will equal the total amount of revenue coming into Washington, D.C. That is going to cause fiscal chaos in the United States and around the world. This is why the House Speaker's issue has got to be resolved quickly, because Washington needs to figure out what the heck it's going to do. The problem, however, is that no one in Washington wants to cut spending. There's not enough of a vote to raise taxes, which would be bad. There's not enough of a vote to reform entitlements, which we need. There's not enough of a vote to cut spending, which we need. So we are in this really chaotic time, and the markets are responding in such a way that for you to want to invest in government bonds, the government's going to pay you now over 5 percentage points. This has not happened since the start of the fiscal mess in 2007, 2008, when you started having the finance companies go bankrupt, the auto manufacturers go bankrupt, the home mortgage companies going bankrupt. This was a financially chaotic mess at the time. And Joe Biden, of course, is showing no leadership whatsoever. House Republicans are going to have to figure this out. They're going to need to find a speaker, and that means Jim Jordan probably is going to need to step aside so this process can be expedited. They're not going to be able to bully Republicans into voting for Jim Jordan. Now, I don't want to bully you. I just want to persuade you that if you want to save some money on a new computer, Vision Computers is where you need to go, because unlike going to the generic big box store where you get the generic one-size-fits-all computer, Vision can actually build you the laptop or desktop you want, you need, and that will get you through multiple years and can upgrade it instead of having to throw it out and get a new one later. Vision, you can have a lifetime relationship with them. You know, Jim, my board op, he's been with them for 15 years, Jim? They keep, at least they've done a great job for him, and their tech support as well. You can call Vision Computer at 404-COMPUTE and start your relationship with them. Not only do they build the computers for you, but they service them for you. You can get an answer in less than 15 seconds. Faster than a Google search on how to fix your computer. They can navigate you through what to do if something happens. They can help you with email setup. They can help you with printer support. They can help you with antivirus software, whatever you need. They can take care of you. VisionComputers.com is the website. But if you call them at 404-COMPUTE, ask about the Eric Erickson special at 404-COMPUTE. They can save you even more money, and they can be a long-term partner with you in all your tech needs. VisionComputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. It's an open line Friday. The phone number is 877-973-7425. There is some breaking news happening right now. Kenneth Chesborough, jury was set to begin selection today in his trial in Georgia. And, well, he has pled guilty now in Fulton County. That's happening right now. This is another one of the defendants. He is alleged to be the architect of the fake elector plot. The guy essentially getting the alternative slate of electoral college members. He is pleading guilty according to sources coming out of Fulton County. He had rejected the plea originally. And after Sidney Powell has pled guilty now and pledged to testify against the others, Chesborough has now also pled guilty to one felony count. Now, this is notable. He was charged with 7 felonies. He's now pleading guilty to one felony count of conspiracy to commit filing false documents. He will serve 5 years probation, pay $5,000 in restitution to the state, and serve 100 hours community service. If you're just tuning in, Kenneth Chesborough is the attorney who came up with the idea, allegedly, of coming up with an alternative slate of electors, Republicans in Georgia, and then filing those with Congress as an actual authentic slate of electoral college members. Sidney Powell pled guilty. Kenneth Chesborough refused to take a plea. After Sidney Powell pled guilty and said she would testify against the other defendants, Kenneth Chesborough is now pleading guilty to one felony count of conspiracy to commit filing false documents. He will serve 5 years probation, pay $5,000 in restitution to the state of Georgia, and serve 100 hours of community service, and must write a letter of apology to the citizens of Georgia and testify truthfully as the case proceeds. He is now the third person in the case to plead guilty, coming on the heels of Sidney Powell. What's notable is that Sidney Powell was only asked to plead guilty to misdemeanors. Atlanta bail bondsman Scott Hall also reached a deal and pled guilty to some counts regarding access to election machines in Coffee County. But Kenneth Chesborough now pleading guilty. That's breaking news happening right now. All right, let me go to the phones here. 877-973-7425. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric.
Hi.
First of all, I just want to, I agree with you as far as what you said earlier. We can't be playing that game. But the one thing I want to really stress that I wish you would stress more is there's no oversight on all this money going to Ukraine and now going to Israel and to Hamas. You know, to me, it's so clear that $100 billion, each billion is worth 1,000 million. And what are we talking about? 20%, 30% is getting taken off the top. So these guys, the generals like Zelensky, can buy mansions in Europe, or the money could come back to the U.S. to pay for all these dirty politicians. We know that this whole Washington, D.C. is corrupt as far as
it is.
goes.
And, I got to say, there are actually a couple of members of Congress, and I think it's bipartisan. I know it is Republicans, but I think they got a couple of Democrats now on board calling for a special inspector general to audit all of this money, particularly the money going to Ukraine, which even those of us like me, supports funding Ukraine, you got to be willing to acknowledge the country's corrupt as all get out. And we need to audit the money because I'm sure some of it is being lined the pocket. It just remarkable that we don't have better audits. We've got general inspector generals, but there needs to be, particularly for Ukraine, more inspections of the money. And by the way, I let you go there because I'm going to play some audio, and it might provoke bad language from you when you hear this, as it did to me when I first heard it. I've calmed down now, but this is Matt Miller. He's the Biden State Department spokesman, being asked about the $100 million Joe Biden wants to send to Hamas that he announced last night.
I think the concern the Israeli government has, and they've said this publicly, and they certainly said it privately to us, is that any assistance that goes in will be diverted once it's inside Gaza. That there's not an Israeli military force in Gaza. There's not a UN peacekeeping force in Gaza. The people with guns inside Gaza are Hamas, and so Hamas may try to divert this assistance and keep it from getting to the civilians who it is intended for. We think that's a legitimate concern. We've made clear that this aid needs to go to innocent civilians and not Hamas. We're going to be watching very carefully how it's delivered because we want to be sensitive to those concerns, which we share. I think.
Wait! Please follow along with me here. Joe Biden has announced he wants $100 million in aid to go to the people of Gaza, and Matt Miller, the Biden State Department spokesman, says the only people in Gaza with guns are Hamas. There's no peacekeeping force. There's no UN chain. And so Hamas are the people with guns. And so there are legitimate concerns that they will divert the money to Hamas's needs and that the money will not go to the innocent people of Gaza, but to Hamas's personal use. There are legitimate concerns, and yet they're going to give them the money. This is the same naivete that led the Biden administration to say, hey, Iran always uses its money to fund terrorism, but we're going to allow them $80 billion in oil sales to China. This is insanity. I mean, this really is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. This is insanity. This is Matt Miller, the White House or the State Department spokesman, acknowledging there are really good odds that Hamas is going to use the money we're sending Gaza, not for humanitarian purposes, but to fight Israel. How many times must we do this over and over and over? Good gracious, people. Meanwhile, you've got the dissidents. And have y'all heard about this? The State Department has some people on the inside who are filing a dissident cable. Now, or a dissent cable? What does that mean? So internally in the State Department, employees can file essentially a statement that is internal to the State Department saying we dissent. And they are dissenting from Joe Biden's policies of helping Israel. They are dissenting from those policies. They want more pro-Palestinian support. In fact, in Congress, more than 400 anonymous congressional staffers signed an open letter calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, saying they're profoundly disturbed that their bosses, that would be members of Congress, are shows of humanity for Israel have barely extended to the Palestinian people. Notice that they're anonymous. How do we really know that there are 400 of them? They should all be fired, by the way. They should be fired. They're not profoundly disturbed that Hamas beheaded babies. They're not profoundly disturbed that there are dozens of American hostages and now 32 known dead American citizens. They're disturbed that Joe Biden isn't friendly enough to Hamas. They should all be fired. I do want to play you some of the audio of Joe Biden from last night. And I got to say, the man needed a Red Bull and some of Hunter Biden's cocaine before he gave that speech last night. It was a total snooze fest, but I don't want to put you to sleep at the wheel, those of you driving, but you should hear some of this.
Look, at the same time, President Netanyahu and I discussed again yesterday the critical need for Israel to operate by the laws of war. That means protecting civilians in combat as best as they can. The people of Gaza urgently need food, water, and medicine. Yesterday, in discussions with the leaders of Israel and Egypt, I secured an agreement for the first shipment of humanitarian assistance from the United Nations to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. If Hamas does not divert or steal these shipments, we're going to provide an opening for sustained delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance for the Palestinians.
And the State Department today is acknowledging that there's no guarantee that money won't be repurposed by Hamas to fight Israel. Here's a little more.
I also spoke with President Abbas, the Palestinian Authority, and reiterated the United States remains committed to the Palestinian people's right to dignity and to self-determination. The actions of Hamas terrorists don't take that right away. Like so many other, I'm heartbroken by the tragic loss of Palestinian life, including the explosion at the hospital in Gaza, which was not done by the Israelis. We mourn every innocent life lost. We can't ignore the humanity of innocent Palestinians who only want to live in peace and have an opportunity. You know, the assault on Israel echoes nearly 20 months of war, tragedy, and brutality inflicted on the people of Ukraine, people that were very badly hurt since Putin launched his all-out invasion. We've not forgotten the mass graves, the bodies found bearing signs of torture, rape used as a weapon by the Russians, and thousands of Ukrainian children forcibly taken into Russia, stolen from their parents. It's sick. Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy, completely annihilate it. Hamas' stated purpose for existing is the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of Jewish people. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people. Hamas uses Palestinian civilians as human shields, and innocent Palestinian families are suffering greatly because of them. Meanwhile, Putin denies Ukraine has or ever had real statehood.
Last one, this was the president last night. No one can say I didn't play it. I'm letting you listening to him. I got thoughts, but I just want you to hear the man himself.
American leadership is what holds the world together. American alliances are what keep us, America, safe. American values are what make us a partner that other nations want to work with. To put all that at risk, if we walk away from Ukraine, if we turn our backs on Israel, it's just not worth it. That's why tomorrow I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs, to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine. It's a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations. Help us keep American troops out of harm's way. Help us build a world that is safer, more peaceful, more prosperous for our children and grandchildren.
Look, he's trying to be leaderly. Even at Fox, Brett Hume said that this is probably the most presidential sounding speech, but it was also probably one of the boringest speeches ever given. I mean, the man needed Hunter Biden's cocaine to amp himself up a little bit, given a speech of this import. It was notable. Interrupted baseball. We had to listen to him. He wants to fund Israel. He wants to fund Ukraine. Here's a problem. We don't have a Speaker of the House of Representatives. So until Republicans figure out who that's going to be, really nothing's going to happen. And we're 35 days or so from a government shutdown. We're headed towards uncharted territory here in the country. You know, the thing that used to set the United States apart from everyone else is that our institutions were functioning, and worked. And they're all starting to collapse in corporate America, in academia, in the bureaucracy, the elected branches of government. Everything is starting to become dysfunctional and collapse. That's not a healthy sign for our future. All right, we got to get out of here. But first, I got to tell you about Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile wants to be your cell phone provider. And if you move your business to Patriot Mobile, they will grow the conservative movement. You grow their profits, they grow the movement. You can even move your cell phone to them and get this great cell service, probably using the same cell towers you're already using, and keep your number. You go to patriotmobile.com/Eric, patriotmobile.com/ERICK. You can zoom straight into your house and see how good the 5G, the data, the voice, everything is. patriotmobile.com/Eric. You can also call them 972-PATRIOT. You tell them I sent you. You get guaranteed great service. You get free activation with my name. You get great discounts if you're a veteran or a first responder, even an NRA member or a teacher. You can get good discounts. If you got a lot of lines for a lot of kids, you can get discounts. And then as their profits grow, they're giving to the conservative causes you care about grow. So give them a call, 972-PATRIOT. Tell them I sent you. Or you can just make it very easy. Go to patriotmobile.com/Eric. Put in your information. They can transfer your service to them. You can even keep the same cell phone number you have or get a brand new one from them. patriotmobile.com/Eric. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan nationwide. They can help your business grow. If you're buying a building, expanding a franchise, buying a franchise, you need $250,000 or more, and banks are giving you a hard time. See if First Liberty can help you. Go to firstlibertyga.com for their contact info. firstlibertyga.com. Good people. Again, they can help you anywhere in the nation. By the way, I have an important announcement to make. A very important announcement. One I'm deeply proud of, by the way. I'd like to welcome to the show Talk 107.3 WBRP in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, for those of you who are longtime listeners, you know I'm a native of Louisiana. Grew up not far from where this station broadcasts. And it's nice to now have a home station in Louisiana, but not just there. I have another one as well, KSLQ in Salt Lake City. Or not Salt Lake City, I'm sorry, in St. Louis, KSLQ. KSL Salt Lake, KSLQ, St. Louis, Missouri, 104.5 FM, has joined us. Listen to me live. I sure appreciate you guys as well in St. Louis. I need to get to St. Louis. I was supposed to actually go out there and play golf a couple of weeks ago and was not able to go with my buddy Leland Vittert from News Nation. So I need to get out to St. Louis. I need to get down to Well, I'm going to be in Baton Rouge in a couple of weeks for my dad's birthday. So it's my dad's, what is it? Is it 85th birthday? And he texted me and said it's actually the 45th anniversary of his 40th birthday. That's how he wants to celebrate it. So he's at his 60th class reunion for college. 60th class reunion for college. And he texted me this morning and said, these people are all so old. What do you think? You're all in your 80s. My goodness gracious. At least it's a small gathering. Good gracious. In any event, all right, look, we got other stuff we got to talk about today, including we've got to talk about the PR campaign on behalf of Hamas by American media outlets. It's remarkable after years of lecturing us about disinformation and misinformation, the Biden administration could fall all over themselves on this. However, I need to play you some audio. I don't care to say nice things about him, but I do need to. Chuck Schumer, who is Jewish, who is a staunch defender of Israel, he's going after his friends in the liberal media.
Now there's proof put out by the Israelis that the rocket, of course, was not from from Israel, but rather was from one of the Palestinian groups that works with Hamas. And this is what Israel's up against. Israel didn't put out a statement immediately because they were checking it. They wanted the truth. Hamas immediately said, oh, the IDF did it. They lied through their teeth. And, for 6 hours, the world blamed Israel unfairly. Now the word is getting out, and I think all of us have an obligation to get that proof out that the IDF showed about that.
Good for Schumer on this, calling out the American media. I actually really want to highlight for you the extent of this when we come back. I'll take your phone calls as well here at Open Line Friday, the Eric Erickson Show. The phone number 877-973-7425. But I have got to play. This is kind of mind-blowing audio when we get back, the extent of this. After years of lecturing the rest of us about misinformation and disinformation, if you're a Jew-killing terrorists, the media just believes anything you say, which is damning of the press.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.